Welcome to the Unexpected Podcast, where your hosts, Lee and Amy, carry on simple conversations about everything from life experiences, the current culture, God, and everything in between. And because Lee has put Amy through years of surprises, this is her time to surprise him with unexpected topics he won't be privy to until the microphone is on and the camera is rolling. This is the Unexpected Podcast. Well,
hi.
Welcome to the Unexpected Podcast, where today we're going to talk in really bad British accents.
Oh, then we'll get all you going in here. He's talking about some old stuff, man, and you just English accent stuff.
Are you going to be Cockney?
I guess.
All right. And would you all like to hear how we did our sound check before we got started?
How?
Remember, we were saying good.
Oh, wow.
So crazy stuff happens before we say rolling.
Rolling.
Here we are. And we're just feeling silly.
Today's a silly day.
How are you guys? Are you feeling silly? Happy? We are experiencing some rain outside and a little bit of a storm.
A little thunder, so if we have to cut it and go in,
seek shelter
and leave the camera running, it may be kind of interesting.
We're in shelter, but if, we have a power outage, but hopefully we won't have that happen.
Right. So,
okay.
Without further ado, what we got today, Amy?
Without further ado, I have an idea. I have a topic.
Okay.
And I'm calling it The Best of Times, The Worst of Times.
Sounds like a book.
It is a line from a famous book, and you guys may know it. I'm sure you do. It's from A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, which is a great book. I'm not necessarily going to talk about the book today, but the line evokes a lot of things for me, because sometimes we are living in both really good times and really bad times. And this can apply to our personal life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
As well as the world in general. And so, right now we're navigating some really challenging times personally. Yesterday was a challenging day with dealing with doctors and diagnoses and things going on with Lee. And
hey,
it was a little rough.
It's all good.
But, life goes on. And life goes on. Well, back to our British theme. La, 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 life goes on. Anyway, where was I? So, but on the flip side of that is that, we have good things happening in our lives.
Yeah.
And many things to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
And many things that we've dreamed about doing that we're actually doing, and that we're having, opportunities and doors open, and, good things and ways and there are ways that we can see God's hand on our lives and on our children's lives. So I think it's important for people, maybe young people in particular, but all people, to be reminded that there's never a perfect season in your life.
No.
I mean, there are times that are better than others. And I do believe that sometimes you go through these really dark and challenging times. And then it seems as though for those who are walking with the Lord and know God, in particular, in his goodness, then he'll bring us into a time where there's a little reprieve. There's a little time to breathe, before maybe you go into some other kind of challenge. And the fact of the matter is we're at war. We're definitely in spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
We're at war in so many ways.
We're physical wars going on right now too.
Well, there are. And there's a war for our children. There's a war for their minds and for their well-being. There's an information war going on. There's so many things. We're living in both some challenging times, and yet there's some good stuff. And let me just throw this out, and then I'll see what you might have on your mind. But, this is very biblical in the sense that the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verses 1 and 2 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth."
Yeah.
So first of all, when we see dark times, and there's no one time that's what am I trying to say? Dark times, we've seen them prevail throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
Different kinds of darkness. So it should never come as a surprise to us when we're facing darkness.
Right.
And then it says, "and deep darkness, the people." People are living in darkness. But then it says, "But the Lord will arise over you, and his glory will be seen upon you." So it's almost as though, and we know this metaphor, a candle burns brightest in a dark room.
Absolutely.
And so I think this is applicable to our lives. It's applicable to the times that we're living in. It's always a good idea to revisit the fact that, we hang on, and we not only are called to be a bright light, even in these dark times, but we have the light that we can rest in. Jesus is the light of the world. And so we have that. And really, we're in a season where it's just one day at a time, which every day is, you're supposed to live one day at a time anyway.
One day at a time.
But you know what I'm saying.
Jesus.
That's beautiful.
It's all I'm asking for.
Yeah, good song. But, sometimes you literally, I used to use the word literally, probably metaphorically. Anywho, wow.
You just want to give up.
I think I got too much sun earlier.
Yeah, but you know what you're saying. I agree with that. Everybody goes through hard times. Everybody deals with things, and it's how you deal with them that matters. Are you going to get depressed? Are you going to get down on yourself? Are you going to get down on others? Are you going to get mad at others? Are you going to get is it their fault? Is it your fault? What's going on in your life, and who's to blame? Maybe there's nobody to blame. But the fact of the matter is how we react to things matters. You can react to a bad situation with positive thought process, and you can react to a bad situation, and go through your grieving process. Yeah. Which is nothing wrong with that. Right. But I don't know about anybody out there. I don't know about you. But there are days that I'm just like, I give up. I'm done. I don't want anything else to do with anybody or anything that's going on in my life. Yeah. And I just want to quit. I'm done. And I get to that resolve, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, I can't be done. There's people out there that are hurting that I could help. There are people out there that want to help me. There are people that love me. There are people that need me around. Right. And vice versa. There's people that need you, and there's people that I need to be around. Right. We are dependent on each other. There's no codependency on everybody. I don't think that's healthy, to be your feelings attached to somebody else's actions. Right. I don't think that's a good, healthy way to live. But I will say that, you can be that light for somebody. You can be that help to somebody who's hurting. You can be that, and you reap what you sow. If you've sowed into somebody's life peace, love, tranquility, and that it'll come back to you sooner or later. Maybe not through that person, but through somebody else. Sure. Law of sowing and reaping. It's not only for Christians. It's not only it is a law that God has set into motion since the beginning and the foundations of the earth. And so, I don't think getting depressed helps. But I will say there is a time that you just need to mourn and get it out of your system. Yeah. There is a time that you need to grieve, but don't stay there too long. Right. Because it can be detrimental to your health. We hear a lot about mental health and all of that stuff. When we were growing up, we didn't hear such words. We heard, hey, get over it. And
suck it up.
Suck it up, buttercup. Life's hard. And
Well, and don't we always go to extremes in our
we
culture? Like
do.
that was a little too harsh.
Harsh.
And then we go to this other extreme where it's all centered around
My feelers hurt.
feelings and not having the ability, not having resilience.
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And facts in the world don't care about your ideas. Facts in the world don't care about your ideologue.
Yeah.
Facts don't care about what you believe is truth. Facts don't care about anything except the facts.
Right.
So by thinking that we could change the facts that are in life, we are delusional.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I want to go back to what you said about wanting to give up because the other day, I had one of those moments where that's what I was feeling. And, sometimes it's okay to just be honest with yourself, be honest with God as you're praying. And what really came out of me was, I don't even want to live in this world anymore. I'm sick of this world. And it's almost as though it was like the Holy Spirit said, reminded me, well, maybe that's the point. Because there's more to life than what we see in this world, than what we see before us. There's a life beyond this world, and there's the spiritual life. And so the reality is that as long as we're on this earth, this is where we're supposed to be living.
Yeah. And we've got things to do.
We have things to do. But it was an interesting thought that dropped into my spirit, which I think, was from the Holy Spirit, that, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be so comfortable in this world anyway. The Bible talks about us being pilgrims, and we're just passing through this place.
Yep.
But while we're here, we have a purpose.
Yeah, we're at that stage in life, I believe, that when things go wrong, we want to blame a party, a political party, for the problems that are in our lives, when we haven't really looked at our lives and took a good what do you do when you
evaluation?
Good
maybe?
Evaluation, or oh my gosh, if you work at retail, you do this because you got to check, see how much product you got.
Inventory.
You don't take a good. Sorry, man. Wow, that's a big word. Inventory.
Hey, it's the weekend. We're in weekend mode.
And we need to take inventory of our life. What is needed in our life? Are we cluttered up with stuff? Are we cluttered up with things are we keeping things for comfort? Are we keeping things for convenience? Are we keeping things because we're a hoarder? Are we keeping things because we're sentimental?
Right.
Are we keeping things just because we're mental? There are certain aspects that we don't grasp about getting rid of things and how healing it can be. There is shopping. There is like what they call retail therapy. It's great to buy something sometimes. Sometimes you just need to go out and you got to buy you a dress, or I go out and I got to buy a piece of music equipment or something every once in a while. Just because.
A little piece of music equipment.
But,
Big price range difference, by the way.
No. I mean, new pick, a new strap or something. Just something to change it up a little bit. But you got to be willing to get rid of some stuff too.
Right.
Not just bring all kinds of new stuff in.
And what you said earlier made me think of, again, everything being a balance. Like taking personal inventory is primary, in as far as living a life that's going to be peaceful and rewarding. But that's not to say that things that are happening out there don't affect us. And that's another reason for us to care what's going on in the world, to pray about what's going on in the world, to have an influence where we can in a positive way. Yeah. Because, we are affected by what is happening out there. But yet, we can't let what's happening out there rule what's going on inside.
Right. And, I have a hard time with empathy. I'm sorry, I just do. I'm not a very empathetic person. I care about people. I do. But I don't grasp the idea of putting myself in other people's shoes too easily, because sometimes their shoes, they bought at the crazy store, and I don't want to go that route.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you made your bed. My grandmother used to say, "You made your bed, now lie in it."
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a little too much. I think some people make their bed and they lie in it, but then they need to change their sheets because they're nasty. And now I just need to have a little bit more compassion. Compassion and empathy, I think, are very similar, but not quite.
Right, because I think you do have a lot of compassion when you see someone in a certain situation. I know that you're moved upon in your heart.
Absolutely, I love to help.
But you don't necessarily have an easy time of putting yourself in other people's shoes,
Right.
or maybe picking up on what's going on with them emotionally. Whereas I'm on the other end of the spectrum on that, and I have such a strong sense of empathy that I'm liable to pick up everybody's feelings in the room. I'm very aware. But to me, that comes down to different people have different giftings as well.
Yeah.
And so
Excuse me.
I think it can help in relationships to be empathetic, but then you can be too empathetic. And, we need people who are bold in what they have to say and
That'd be
who
me.
can maybe navigate life and not be overly affected by the people around you.
Right. You have to make a non-emotional decision sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you make decisions based on emotion, you make a lot of wrong decisions, I believe.
Yeah.
Emotional decision making is detrimental to your life.
But the other extreme, you can be to where you're not sensitive enough to what is actually going on with other people.
True, yeah.
And then, so it goes both ways. What about you? What about you guys? Where would you say you are on that spectrum of being empathetic or maybe not being so empathetic? We'd love to hear from you. So drop some comments.
Yeah. So,
well, here's another thought that I had because, that's relevant to what we're talking about. The fact that there's so much darkness that does cover the earth. And, I think we just need that reminder sometimes because we can be going through life and wonder like, whoa, why am I feeling like this oppression? Well, because the world produces it. But in reference to going back to this verse where it talks about, deep darkness is over the people. This ties into Colossians 2:8 where it says, beware lest anyone cheat you through philosophy and empty deceit, according to the tradition of men, according to the basic principles of the world, and not according to Christ. And this is really a daily thing that we navigate. I mean, every day you're going to be faced with ideas that can sound really good. For me, like before I came to know Jesus, I mean, I was out there looking at every philosophy, every type of, Eastern religion, mysticism, all these different things. And thankfully, by God's grace, I came to know the Lord. And so once I knew that truth of who Jesus was, I didn't have a need for all those philosophies.
Right.
Now, that's not to say that there aren't still important philosophical thoughts that we take into consideration.
Yep.
But there's a lot of things that can just so easily,
take you down
lead
a
you
bad
astray.
road.
Take you down a bad road.
Take you down a bad road. And, before you listen to anybody, you got to, I've said this before, you look at where they're coming from. Why are they saying what they're saying? And what philosophy are they coming out of? Are they coming out of a Marxist kind of thought process? Are they coming out of a St. Paul kind of thought process? Are they coming from, is it going to be the biblical? Is it going to be a communistic? Is it going to be a socialistic? Is it going to be... what thought process are they coming out of? Because if you vet someone based on where they're coming from and understanding where they're coming, that's where empathy, I guess, comes into play. Is you understand their position in life before and after, and we are a culmination of all of our experiences. And whether we like it or not, we all are a culmination of all of our experiences. Sometimes we take some of those experiences and we cast them off because they're not a part of us. But then other times we just adopt it right in, and we don't even know that we are changed. Now, I don't talk about Freudian theory much at all, but you got the id, the ego, or the id, the superego, and the ego.
Mm-hmm.
The id is the inner primal thing that he says, and then the superego is just like the deep part of the surface, and then the ego is like the part that you kind of see is out here. And so what sometimes our life experiences gets down into the id part, which is the deep dark parts of who we are as a human, and that can take us into a place of changing. So we have to change. I think that's where Jesus, I feel like that is where Christ comes in and changes that part of us, what Freudian would call the id. Freud would call the id, and that's a big part of where we're at in society. We have changed the id of our children and all of the people around us to something that's almost non-human, because they have no grasp on reality.
Yeah, and the influences of social media are at play and so many other things. And it's interesting, tying back to something you said, we don't need to pigeonhole people, because it is important to a degree to even the people who are the most outlandish. Now, there's some people you just need to shut down. Their ideologies are crazy. They're either pushing something that is detrimental to society, or they're just regurgitating something they have already heard. But sometimes people get on a certain bandwagon because there actually legitimately have been injustices. But the problem with that is that there's a tendency, and just tying back to the fact that I referenced A Tale of Two Cities, which is really about the beginnings of the French Revolution. There were people who had legitimately been oppressed, and they had been on the receiving end of injustice. But then they became so entrenched in the mob mentality that the revolution became, so detrimental to where good, innocent people, were murdered in cold blood. And so, it's this dichotomy that the enemy wants in our society. Perhaps part of being that light is standing strongly for the truth, but doing it in love. I guess that's what it all comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah. It all
Speaking the truth in love.
And, I think it was Penn Jillette had said something a long time ago, it was years ago.
And if people aren't familiar with who that is, he was part of a magician duo.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Penn and Teller. So Penn Jillette, he was, he's an agnostic or atheist. I can't, but he had said something about, he said, if I have a train barreling towards me and I'm too blind to see it, I'm not going to be mad if somebody tackles me and gets me off the track. He said, but that's how I view proselytizing or going after people. He said somebody handed him a New Testament Bible. He said, I'm not going to read it. He said, but they think enough of me and they love me enough to try to get me off of what they believe is a bad road.
Yeah, that was powerful. I remember him talking about that.
I was like, that is what it's all about.
I mean, that's challenging to any true believer, because he was basically saying, if you really believe this gospel that you preach, then you should be doing everything in your power to make sure every human being is aware of it.
Yeah, and all we have to do is make people aware that, are you going to hell when you die? Or are you going to heaven? If you want to go to heaven, the way is Jesus.
Right.
And you repent of your sin and you turn from your wicked ways, turn from sin, and you come to Christ and you ask forgiveness. And it's through the blood of Christ that we are reunited with God so that we can walk in the cool of the garden.
Right. And Jesus himself said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. So he was either the Son of God or he wasn't. I've come to know by revelation, Jesus is the Son of God. And he, his words are true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
we've proved it many times in our lives, or he's proved it to us many times through the Holy Spirit, and just manifestations of things in life. yeah, some people say, well, you're not doing well. You're sick. You're hurt. You're whatever. Well, where's Jesus in that? And, it rains on the just and the unjust. It didn't say that, once we became a Christian, that everything would be hunky-dory and peachy keen. I mean,
No.
the first Christians were martyred. They were all either put up on a stake
Right.
by Nero and burned alive, or they were hung on a cross upside down. They were boiled in oil, had their heads cut off. I mean, they were brutally, until Constantine said it was all right for Christians to be Christians.
Right.
And then Catholicism came through, and all of the things. I'm not going to get into any religious.
Yeah, we don't have time for a whole historical.
But the thing
analysis.
is, being a Christian, it means Christ-like, or after the likeness of the Anointed One. And when we take on that mantle of being a Christian, then we're taking on the responsibility for other people's souls. Who are hanging in the balance of life and death after.
And Christians from other countries will, I've heard this, these kind of conversations or, taking place where, an American Christian might say to someone in a place where there's poverty or where there's persecution, we're really praying for you. And their response is, yes, but we're praying for you because in all the comfort and prosperity that we have, it's very easy to be distracted from our walk with God. So
set your mind on things above and not things below, and be wearyful of the things that so easily beset you or set you aside, things that draw your attention away from God.
Right.
But anyway.
Okay. Well,
that was good.
Yeah. Good reminders, and we made it through the storm.
Yeah, it sounds like it's doing good. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap up another episode, and we'll see you all next week. If you all would take the time, if you're watching on YouTube, it really does help other people find us. If you'll take the time to just throw a little comment down in the comment section, like the video, subscribe to our channel. It's all free, of course. And that'll really help us out. We're starting to get a greater audience with just out there in the YouTube world, and that's great. And if you listen to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we appreciate that. You can write a review if you feel so compelled, but we appreciate it all.
Yeah, we probably should do the promo at the beginning of these shows.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I mean, that's what everybody else does, but we've never done anything like everybody else. We've always been our own little thing, haven't we?
Our own little thing. Well, on that note,
happens.
We're going to go be our own little thing the rest of the evening, and you guys do the same.
All right.
We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Don't forget to like this video, and please subscribe to our channel. Drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you prefer audio podcasts, please follow us on your favorite streaming platform.